Hello, my name is Jean Erickson Burton, and I'm an accredited Swedish genealogist. In this video, I'll introduce you to key elements found in each of the 5 main church records, and later in the final video of this series, I will teach you to use the 5 record types cooperatively to help you discover and recreate complete families. For this series, I will be using Archive Digital for my demonstrations. Archive Digital can be accessed for free at any family search center. All record images used in this series are courtesy of Archive Digital. The Swedish people are excellent record keepers. They have kept and preserved many different types of records for hundreds of years, but the ones I want to talk to you about today are the 5 main church records, which are the household examination records, the moving in and moving out records, the birth and christening records, the banns and marriage records, and the death and burial records. You will notice in this table that I have listed the names of the records in both English and Swedish, along with the archival code of each record type. All church records throughout Sweden use these codes to identify the record types, so they will be useful when searching for records. Although the records are listed in this order in archives, we'll learn about them today in the following order: birth, marriage, death, household examinations, and moving in and moving out records. Birth and christening records. Every parish was responsible for recording the christening of each child. By law, the christening was to take place within 8 days of a child's birth. While there was no set format for creating these records, there are similarities found within the records of each parish. In many cases, birth and christening have more information than many of the church records, so we will spend a bit more time introducing this important source. Here is the list of some of the major elements of a birth or christening record that may be found in these records. The date of the child's birth, the child's name, generally no surname was given, the christening date, the first and the last name of both parents, the father's occupation, their place of residence, the age of the mother at the child's birth, and the child's godparents or witnesses. The name of the child may be distinguished in some way. Perhaps their name is larger or is underlined somewhere in the text of the record, or it may be set off in a column. While some countries in Europe were only interested in the christening date being recorded, Swedes generally recorded both birth and christening dates in their church records. Most children in church records have no surname until they are about the age of 15 years of age. Like their parents, the children's surname will generally be patronymic. Patronymic means that their last name is created from the first name of their child's father. For example, look at the 1711 record. The second child's name is Eric. His father's first name or given name is Anders. Eric is the son of Anders, so he would be called Eric Anders' son. In the 1759 example, in entry 12, which is second from the bottom, you can see Brita. Her father in the box at the left is Mats Ursen. She is the daughter of Mats, so her last name would be Mats' daughter. While patronymic can be a bit tricky to get used to at first, by learning to use the patronymics, you'll quickly find out the first name of both the father and the mother's fathers. If a last name is not patronymic, it might be a trade name or a soldier name, which generally has no connection to family heritage. An example of these names might be Lundqvist or Glad. Look at the surnames of the parents marked in red and blue. The mother and the father generally have different surnames from each other. Most women in Sweden kept their birth names throughout their lives, even after marriage. This was the case until the late 1800s and early 1900s, when women often took the surnames of their fathers or husbands. The father's occupation is generally found right before the name of the father. The father's occupation may help you identify him as the person in each of the records. It also helps you know his class. Generally, people married people of similar class. You may find that your ancestor was a torpor or cottager, or perhaps a craftsman such as a tailor or shoemaker, or perhaps a higher status such as a goldsmith. Different occupations tell you a lot about the family. Family Search Wiki has a good English-Swedish word list that includes many Swedish occupations. Although you already know the name of the parish, the birth record will probably tell you the name of the farm or the number of the housing unit. To locate a residence, look near the name of the parents. Also, look for a lowercase letter I in front of a word. That lowercase I means in or from. The word that comes after the I is probably a residence. For much of Sweden's history, approximately 80% of the population lived in rural settings, while only 20% lived in cities. Quite often, a mother's age is given. Sometimes the age of both parents is given. In this document from the 1780s, look in the first column to find the small number 38. That's the mother's age at the time her baby pair was born. This birth record from 1929 gives a lot of information. Look at the birth of the child John Bertel. In the box next to John's name we see in blue the names of both his mother and his father, August Söderberg and Elsa Josefina. Elsa's maiden name was listed as Lovqvist, and the underlined portion tells their marriage date, December 27, 1928. The dates that are circled are the birth dates of both parents. As we finish talking about birth and christening records, I want to point out the witnesses. Almost every christening record includes the names of the witnesses or godparents and the names of those in attendance. They're usually listed after the names of the mother and the father. These are often relatives of the parents and are an important linkage to the next generation. Banns and marriage records. As with the birth records, marriage records were not standardized until the late 1800s. Each parish determined what information they would record and how they would format their records. Compared to birth records, marriage records do not have as much information, but their value lies in the fact that the record provides proof that the couple was connected. It may also provide the name of a parent or possibly a household residence. Here are some of the elements that one may find in the marriage record: the dates for the banns and marriage, the first and last name of the couple, the bride and groom's birth dates and ages, their residences, and sometimes the name of a parent may be given. In order to marry, banns and listening were required. These 3 dates can be found in the circle on the left. In the parish or parishes where the bride and groom resided, banns were posted for 3 consecutive Sundays to make sure that there were no obstacles to the marriage. These obstacles might include such things as a prior marriage, a forced marriage, or a lack of celibacy. It was assumed that people in the parish would know if there was a reason the couple shouldn't marry. Banns were generally required until 1969, when they were replaced by a secular registration through the Swedish tax department to determine if there is any obstacle to a marriage. This registration is called the Hindersprövning. In the circle on the right, you can see the wedding date. This is known as the Vigsel date. Let's take a look at this page. In the circle on the left, we see the dates of the 3 Sundays that the banns were posted in church. Next to it is underlined May 7th. That's the wedding date. Above the red lines in the right, we see Johan Bluth and Wilhelmina Lidding. They are the bride and the groom. The blue underlined word is skräddaren, which means the tailor. That's Johan's occupation that comes before his name. The last line, the green one, indicates they both came from Lidingöbro. The residence of both the bride and the groom were frequently recorded. Be aware, though, that the residence does not necessarily mean the place they were born. It means the place where they were living when they were married. Death and burial records. As with other church records, there were no standard forms for death records. While death records may vary, the contents may contain the following: the names of the deceased, the names of the parents of the deceased, the age at the time the person died, and the residence where they were residing when they passed away, and the cause of death. Some of the earliest death records were often in a single list or column. Later, many were in a sentence or paragraph form, perhaps similar to an obituary. More recently, they are in table form. Because the content varies widely, death records can be among the more challenging records for non-Swedish speakers to read. While there are many varieties, I'm going to only demonstrate one type to give you a taste of what information you can find on a death record. This record comes from 1890 and has lots of helpful information. Here you can see the date of death. The first person died January 2nd. And by looking at the top left side of the page, we can see that this record was created in 1886. In the blue and red columns, you'll find the gender and then the name of the deceased, followed by the occupation and then residence. We can see that Gabriel Gustav Ekman was a fisherman from Utolmen and was a male. Here it says how long the person lived. First, how many years old, then how many months, then how many days. Looking at Gabriel, we see that he lived 60 years, 1 month, and 10 days. In these 4 columns, it states if the person was married or not married or widowed. No marital status is given for Gabriel. Death records often give the cause of death. However, this column is mostly left blank on this record. This column states the location where the person died. The burial date is listed in this column. It says that Gabriel's burial took place on January 10th, 1886. In this column, it indicates what page the person may be found in the household examination records. Here it says Gabriel will be found in household page 168, which will tell you where he lived, when he died, and other information about his family. While not all records are like this one, most death records have many of the same elements. The Husverhörslängder, or household examination rolls, are wonderful records. They might be considered the crown jewel of Swedish genealogical research. In 1686, a law was established that priests were to keep a record regarding each person in a household. They were to examine the person's knowledge of the catechism and their compliance with religious teachings. Although the law established the type of record to be kept, many parishes didn't start keeping these records for 10 or 20 years. These yearly records are a bit like a census. They generally have a record of all who lived in the household. Like the other church records, these records had no set standard. Each parish determined the form of the record and what type of information they would collect. As time went on, the information became more uniform. Each household record usually contains information spanning 5 to 10 years. When this information was first collected, families were asked a set of questions at the church during Sunday meetings. Later on, the minister gathered the information by coming yearly to each household, where he tested the knowledge of each family member or the residents at the home. The questions not only covered religious knowledge and compliance, but recorded information about each individual in the home, perhaps their health, their knowledge, their status. Various things might be recorded. In 1894, these records were replaced with the Forsamling book. While the questions were less religious, they still collected much of the same information about the individuals in each household. Current residence. The location or residence of each household is usually stated at the top of the left page. Within each book, the records are organized by farm, village, or rote. There is frequently some kind of index or register at the beginning or end of the book with page numbers of where each residence will be found. Sometimes there is more than one register provided. There might be a register for the location, or a register organized by the names of those who lived in the parish, or perhaps a register that states the occupations found within the parish. These registers are organized alphabetically in Swedish alphabetical order. Remember, there are 3 more letters in the Swedish alphabet than in the English alphabet: Oa, E, and Ö. They're in the red circle. These letters will appear at the end of a standard American alphabet. Each member of the family was listed along with the relationship each member of the family had with the head of household. So if the head of the household is Karl Julius Victor Ljungberg, then his wife, or hustru, would be listed below him, and in this case her name was Julia Augusta Effert. Below her are listed the names of the head of the household's children. Below Julia is a son named Julius Peter Emanuel. Sometimes the priest simply puts an S or a D instead of writing out the words son or daughter. Below the main family, you'll see other people listed. These could be other households within the same farm, or it might list people who worked on the farm. Here we see a woman named Augusta Matilda Salbert Effert, and it says she's a hustru, meaning she's married. Then it says the word svärmoder, meaning that she's the mother-in-law of Karl Ljungberg, or the mother of Julia Augusta Effert, Karl's wife. Below the mother-in-law, you'll see Johanna Maria Jakobina Hägglund. It says above her name that she's a piga, or a household worker. The occupation was usually written above or in front of the name of the head of the household or other adults who also lived in the household. It says that Karl Ljungberg's occupation is a snickaren, which means carpenter. If you don't know the meaning of an occupation, you can look it up in the Swedish occupation list in Family Search Wiki. Before moving to the next column, notice that the name of the family has black lines drawn vertically through them. This family was crossed out at a later date when they moved away. The birth date of each person is generally included, usually to the right of the name. Here the birth dates are placed under the head of the födelse, with the year, month, or day listed. These dates are fairly accurate. However, they are a secondary source, so they are not going to be as accurate as a birth record themselves. I have also found that if a person has moved into the area from another parish, their birth date may be less accurate. Next to the birth date is usually written the individual's place of birth. You can see here that Carl was born in Visby. Julie was born in Atlingbo, and the son Julius was born in Fullingbo. The column that says äktenskap is regarding their marital status. It often tells the marriage date or perhaps when they were widowed. In the next column, you'll see the letter V. That means the person has been vaccinated for smallpox. If it had an N, it would mean that they had been naturally immunized, which means that they had had smallpox. Here you see a column circled that tells where the family lived before moving to this household. It also includes the dates that they moved into that household. The purple circle on the right tells where the family moved to. It lists the date that they moved and also the page number in the household record where they were staying when in the same parish. In the blue circle, you'll see the years covered by this record. There is a year for each examination that was held. Underneath there are marks the priest makes regarding their answers. The brown circle is in the column where the notes are written. It's hard to see what's written, but it says that the mother-in-law got married, and it tells the date and the name of her new husband. One last comment before moving on to our last record type. When you see a name crossed out, it could mean that they moved as shown in the last household record, or could mean that someone died. Look at this record. Do you see Per Jonsson is crossed out? That's because he died. If you looked at the blue circle, you'd see the word död, which means died, and it gives the death date July 10th, 1856. Now look at the red circle at Kaina's Nilsdottir. The H for hustru, which means wife, is crossed out, and the word enka, or widow, is put in its place. Moving records are in chronological order, giving the names of persons who moved into a parish or moved out of a parish. Here's what you might find in the moving in or moving out records. They may contain the dates they moved, the names of the individuals and their families, the gender of each individual, their occupations, and the places where the people are moving to or moving from. Each parish organized the records as they wished, but two types generally prevailed. One type of moving records had a page for those who were moving in, and the opposite page for those who are moving out. Notice the words at the top. Inflyttade means moving in, and utflyttade means moving out. Another method employed one book for moving out and another book for moving in. When searching in these books, look at the front of the book for a possible table of contents, which will save time because the book may also contain baptisms, births, and deaths. The moving in records are under the heading circled in blue, and the moving out records are under the heading circled in red. The highlighted columns include the names of the persons or family who are moving in. Also included are their occupations and their status, such as marriage. These highlighted columns indicate how many women or men are in the household that is moving, and these columns show the date that they moved in or moved out of the parish. These dates are chronological. These columns indicate the parishes they are moving into or moving from. And these two columns are very helpful, indicating the pages where you can find the person or the family moving in or moving out in the household examination records. Now that we have had a brief introduction of the 5 basic Swedish church records, we are ready to learn a strategy in our next video that will teach us how to find the records and use them to discover complete families.